Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and welcome to my most anticipated releases of 2025. I'm going to be talking about just a few books that I'm interested in coming out in the new year. Mostly we're focusing on the first quarter of the year, books coming out between January and April, but I do have a couple of stragglers that I know about that are coming out in the later half of 2025 that I will briefly mention. In January, we have The Teeth of Dawn by Marina J. Lofstetter. This is the third and final book in this trilogy. The first book is The Helm of Midnight. I'm not actually sure what the series is called. The Helm of Midnight, at least, is a mix between a fantasy horror mystery. There is essentially a serial killer plotline in that book, and we're kind of following a couple points of view, one of them being a detective on the hunt for this killer. I thought it was great. I will say, just as a quick review of the first book of the series, the writing can be really off-putting to a lot of readers. I know this is a really like hit or miss series slash book, but I personally didn't necessarily love the writing, but I was absorbed enough by the plot and the characters that I didn't let the writing bother me. The writing just like seems a little off and it's a little dry, but I enjoyed the plot and the characters so much I wanted to continue. And now the third and final book in this trilogy is coming out and I can't wait. Then we have Breath of the Dragon by Fonda Lee and Shannon Lee. Fonda Lee wrote the Greenbone Saga, one of my favorite series of all time. I was just kind of waiting for her next big fantasy release, and this is it. I have no idea what this is about. I saw Fonda Lee's Instagram that she announced this book, and I just said want to read, and just immediately yes. I'm assuming this will have some element of martial arts as well as Asian inspired fantasy, and I just can't wait for another Fonda Lee epic fantasy. In February, we have 3 books that I'm tentatively interested in. We have the new Emily Wilde book. This is the 3rd book in the Emily Wilde series, which is a cozy fae fantasy romance, question mark. It's very light fantasy. It's very warm and inviting and a little silly and goofy, but the fae are actually kind of terrifying at the same time, which is, in my opinion, a really nice blend. And this is the 3rd book in the series. I don't know if there will be more, but the next book is coming out. I didn't love the 2nd book in the series. I thought it was just alright. But I do kind of want to continue with the series because I really liked book 1, and I'm excited to see the plot unfold in the 3rd book. The 2nd book definitely, to me, feels a little fillery, and so I'm hoping that the 3rd book will kind of turn the ship around. If not, conclude the series in a satisfying way. Another trilogy, or at least another book in a series, A Tropical Rebel Gets the Duke by Adriana Herrera. This is the 3rd book in the Las Leonas historical romance series. The first one is A Caribbean Heiress in Paris, which is one of my favorite historical romances ever, and this is the 3rd book in that series. The main couple in this is the 3rd friend of this friend group. So I'm not sure if there's going to be another one, but there is from the first book, Luz Alana, who's the main character in that one, has a younger sister who is also kind of part of the friend group. So it's possible, at least in my mind, that there could be a 4th book following the younger sister. But as for now, this is the next book in the series. I can't wait. I've been loving these books. The 2nd book in the series is a sapphic historical romance, which I didn't love, but I did appreciate nonetheless. And then Richard Swan has another book coming out called Grave Empire. This is a start to a new series, but it is in the same world as the Empire of the Wolf trilogy. I love that trilogy. I am obsessed with it. I have a whole review up for that trilogy if you're interested in learning more thoughts. This is a new series continuing in this world, and I cannot wait. I'm kind of obsessed with Richard Swan at the moment and can't wait to see what he does next. There seems to be some type of time jump between series, so we're kind of seeing the after effects after a long period of time of the original trilogy, and I'm so excited. So excited for almost all of these, like, more excited about a few, and I think this is one that I'm like, I might pre-order this one. That's how you know when I'm excited, is when I will pre-order the audiobook. In March, we have the Oathbound by Tracy Deonn, which is the third book in this young adult fantasy series that is kind of a spin on the Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur myth, featuring Bree, our main heroine, and this was a sleeper hit for me. It shouldn't have been. This series has been hyped so much, and I was honestly scared. I was intimidated. I finally picked it up after all these years, and I was blown away by how amazing this young adult fantasy series was, how deep it was, how great the world building, excellent action, great characters. In fact, some of the best characters ever. I really love Bree as our heroine. She's incredible. I could go on and on about how awesome this series is. Truly, even if you're not reading much YA anymore, kind of like I am, I highly, highly recommend turning to this series. And this is the third book. I believe there's going to be 4, so this is not the final book in the series, but has been the long and anticipated third. And I'm just as excited as everybody else. Read it. Then we have The Tomb of Dragons by Catherine Arden. This is the third book. A lot of sequels on this list. This is the third book in a series which is a spin-off series from the fantasy standalone The Goblin Emperor. And in the spin-off series, we're following it's kind of like a murder mystery series in a fantasy world to an extent. Our main character can speak with the dead. That's kind of his power, and so he kind of solves crimes. And this is the third book in the series. I didn't love this series. I think that The Goblin Emperor as a standalone is excellent. And you don't need to read them. They can be read independently for the most part, but I do think The Goblin Emperor is a stronger narrative, in my opinion. But I still had a good time reading the first 2 books of this series, and I kind of want to see how it closes out. So I'm excited about this one. Tentatively excited. Then I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this one. The Martian Contingency by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is a sci-fi 4th book in the series. I'm like buzzing, quivering with excitement. This is the 4th book in the Lady Astronauts series. I think it's been, oh gosh, 4 years since the 3rd book, and this is following an alternate historical timeline in which an asteroid strikes the United States, killing a bunch of people, obviously causing massive climate change and climate issues and kind of the consequences of that, kind of starting the space program early. And, you know, we kind of have to leave Earth because of the environmental changes going on. And so it's about, at least the first book is about the main character trying to become a part of the space program and help get off of the planet, and the series goes on from there. I love this series. I am so excited for the 4th book. The 3rd one is probably my favorite of the series. We're actually following a different main character in that one, but now we're in the 4th book. We're back to our main character. I'm blanking on all of the names. What is it? Let me consult the series, which is right here. The first one is The Calculating Stars. I'll just pull it out. The first book of the series is The Calculating Stars. And what's her name? Elma. I knew it started with an E. Elma York is the main character of the first 2 books and now the 4th book in the series. And I really enjoy her as a character. In April, we get a new Meryl Wilsner book, which is My Best Friend's Honeymoon. And honestly, I don't know what the plot of this book is, but Meryl Wilsner has written probably one of my favorite, if not in my top 5 favorite romances of all time, which is Mistakes Were Made. I have a review for this book also up on my channel if you're interested. That's kind of it's a fun review if you haven't seen it yet. I'll link it somewhere. But this is the newest romance by this author. I'm hooked, I'm sad, I'm sold. Anything this author writes, I'm here for. I'm assuming it's queer. All of her previous novels have been queer, so I just assume it is. But I'm ready. I don't even want to know what it's about. Also in April is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the sequel to The Tainted Cup, which is kind of like a murder mystery fantasy series. And it's kind of Sherlock Watson vibes in terms of character dynamic, which is a lot of fun. I'm really excited about this series. I thought the first book got better and better as I read it. At first I was a little like off-put a little bit, but the book convinced me along the way to care, and by the end of it I was itching for a sequel and more of the story. The world building is fascinating. It has a lot to do with, it's a little bit like Attack on Titan. There are leviathans. It's a little bit like eco-punk, sort of, where, you know, the land, the plant life is almost hostile. It's kind of integrated into their society. It's, you know, oppressive in that way. So really interesting world building. I really like the world building of this series, and I like Robert Jackson Bennett in general. So I can't wait for the sequel. Also in April is a new Abby Jimenez. A new Abby Jimenez, Say You'll Remember Me. I believe is about, I will give you the summary of this one, which is about a couple that like spends like 24 hours or 72 hours together, and then the woman has to leave and basically wants to leave and break things off with this person. She basically says like, don't forget me, you know, but we need to move on. And of course the guy can't get over her, and I'm assuming time passes and they end up getting back together. I'm just assuming on the second part, but it is a romance, so it would be silly if they didn't have it happily ever after. But I love Abby Jimenez. At least the 3 books I've read by her, Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer. Excellent, excellent romances. Leaning a little bit literary fiction, light on smut, deeply emotional and impactful to me, and I can't wait for her newest release. Also, she's Minnesotan, which I love. A couple honorable mentions for the second half of the year. In July, I believe, we have a new Silvia Moreno Garcia. I tried to read her 2024 release, and it was purely historical fiction, and I don't like historical fiction. And before that, her previous 2 releases weren't my favorite. So Silvia Moreno Garcia and I have been a little rocky the last couple of releases, but I love, clearly, this is a whole section of my bookshelf dedicated to this author. So clearly I love her and have loved her previous work, and so I'm hoping that this newest book sparks that love again, and we can get back together. I don't know what it's about, but it's called The Bewitching, and so I'm assuming it has some sort of fantastical element to it, and I know it's gonna have great characters. We're getting a new Talia Hibbert book, finally. I'm so excited. The last book we got by Talia Hibbert was her young adults release, which was excellent, but it came out, I believe, in January of 2022. It's been a bit since we got a Talia Hibbert release, and I'm ready. Talia Hibbert, obviously another romance author that can do no wrong. I did a whole video about how much I love Talia Hibbert and all of her books and where to start. I'd just be linking videos in this video. And apparently this is a fantasy romance from this author, which she's dabbled in a couple of paranormal stories. And so this isn't too much of a departure, but her traditionally published work has been contemporary romances thus far. So I'm excited. I'm sad. I don't know what this is about, other than it's a fantasy romance, and I'm dying for it. This is possibly a pre-order as well. And the last book we're going to talk about is a new T. Kingfisher release. Now, I'm not sure. T. Kingfisher wrote, I believe, 4 books this year in 2024, published 4 books in the span of like 12 months. And so I don't think this is the only T. Kingfisher book we're gonna get in 2025, but this is the first one that I personally know about, and it's called Hemlock and Silver, which is another spin on a fairy tale retelling, if I'm not mistaken, with probably a hint of horror. Her last release, which was A Sorceress Comes to Call, this had very similar vibes, at least to me. It was like a little bit of a fairy tale with horror kind of mixed together, and I just love. I'm gonna link another video. I love T. Kingfisher. I will read anything she writes. If she has more releases in 2025, I will be picking those up as well. I have a video guiding you about T. Kingfisher's works. I can't wait for this one either. Those are the books on my list currently that I'm anticipating for 2025. What books are you excited for in 2025? Especially in the latter half of the year. I don't know about a ton in the latter half of the year, but did I put you on to any of these books or these series? A lot of sequels coming out that I'm anticipating. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye!